President Olusegun Obasanjo's statement saying that Western liberal democracy has not been a system of government in Africa because it was forced on the continent by the colonialists. He made the assertion in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, while delivering a keynote address at a high-level consultation on Rethinking Western Liberal Democracy for Africa, held at the Olusegun Obasanjo Presidential Library in the state capital. The event attracted former governors Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, Sule Lamido of Jigawa State, Leah Limoke of Cross River, and Olagunsoye Oyinlola from Ogun State, as well as former Minister of State for Defense Olushola Obada, amongst other distinguished personalities. Now, the former president said the Western style of democracy failed in Africa because it does not take into cognizance the view of the majority of the people.
We have a system of government in which we have no hands to define and design, and we continue with it, even when we know that it is not working for us. Those who brought it to us are now questioning the rightness of their invention, its deliverability, and its relevance today without reform.
Africa, more than any other Western democracy, has more diversity. We're extremely diverse. And that diversity is clearly affecting our practice. So when we come and start talking about preferring solutions, I wonder the nature of our diversity as it relates to the solutions that we may prefer.
I think we spend too much of our time when we promote liberal democracy in focusing on the processes rather than the development outcomes. And I think we need to also find a way to address that so that democracy can deliver.
All right, statements coming from former governors there, Kayode Fayemi, as well as Leah Limoke, and the former President Olusegun Obasanjo, looking at we having a different perspective with regards to our democracy. And like the former president said, that the liberal democracy was forced upon us by our colonialists. And I'm wondering what he practiced while he was in government. You were once in government. If you say democracy failed, was that really the case when you were there? Is that what you're saying? How much did you do to ensure that we had the kind of democracy that will liberate the people, that will hear the voice of not just the majority, but also the minority? Because he questioned that if you're saying democracy is majorly about the majority, where do we fix or keep the minority? Are we saying their voices can be heard? I am questioning what he did different during his time.
And especially when you look at, one of the dents on his administration, which is also what the current government is saying. We've seen a response by the presidency from the office of the senior special assistant, Mr. Bayo Ononuga, who has said that this was the same individual, the former president, or when he was president, he was also championing an amendment to the Constitution where he was eyeing a third term in office, which was, of course, unconstitutional. And, well, if one looks at, the points that the former president is given, well, you could also, it's fine to, pick holes at him, but, where it will all go to, I would rather think that we have a federal government, we have a state government, we have a local government, how that governance is still far away from people, how good governance is still far away from people. It also remains to be seen, or you could also say it's an impression of how, governance is being run, and how governance should be run, because he, since leaving office, has been talking about how he's a Democrat at heart, but of course the facts speak for themselves. His records also speak for themselves. Now, how much achievements can he run with in terms of this and this and this are what I did to better the lives of people? Well, history will continue to judge us all, indeed. Absolutely. But I would rather say if everyone does what they're supposed to do, if all our leaders do what they're supposed to do, the lawmakers, people at various cadres of governance, if they do all what they're supposed to do, people will feel the impact of governance or more. So it's a challenge on us, because in reality, how then do we get this Afrocentric democracy that he's talking about?
What is the framework?
What's the framework? What does he mean? Break it down. You're talking about, bearing a democracy that will reflect our true identities and not the westernized democracy. People have said what we are practicing is expensive to run and all of the disadvantages. But, while we have what we have, other countries are practicing this kind of democracy, and it's working. And you compare the level of industrialization or the level of growth and prosperity. So what's wrong with us?
Like former Governor Fayemi said, is it about the process or about the outcomes? What are we looking at specifically? These were the questions he was asking, and he was talking about that. Perhaps we should be looking more at the outcomes as against the processes. Are we saying we want to change the format for our elections? What exactly do we want to change to have that to reflect the Afrocentricism that we are talking about? So what is even that Afrocentric democracy that we are talking about? For me, I feel that if we really take leadership as service to the people, it's not about what you call a system that you run. It's about the fact that your mind towards the people is to serve them and deliver on good governance, to do what you were elected to do at the end of the day. It is not just about yourself or your generations, as we have seen certain things happen in this part of the world and even across Africa. But what works for us will work if we are determined to deliver on the fact that we are serving the people, and it's not about selfish interest, but to ensure that we advance the cause of the people over the years, such that generations that come after us will, speak well of us, basically. That is how I see it. So I do not think that is about a title. Yes, we must have tailor-made solutions for us when it comes to governance, but this that we have been practicing over the years, how sincere has been the leadership towards the people? How committed have they been towards serving the people? How have they sacrificed for the people? These are the issues. Nigerians are not asking for much. If you look at these matters closely, all they want is government deliver good governance. If you made promises, deliver on them as quickly as possible.
It's rather sad when you hear people present in Nigeria, people living in Nigeria, comparing civilian rule to, the military rule. Some still saying that, the yesteryears were better. But I think this is a burden. This is a responsibility on governments of the day now to ensure that people indeed, feel their presence in power positively.
Absolutely. We'll leave the conversation here now and quickly bring you the news update. President Bola Tinubu, while in Berlin, Germany, championed calls for promotion of good governance in all sectors of the economy. During his presentation, President Tinubu says what African countries need is the assistance to leapfrog from where it is today to where it needs to be. TVC News State House correspondent Femi Akonde has been monitoring the summit in Germany and now reports.
President Bola Tinubu leads Nigeria for the first time to attend the G20 Compact with Africa Summit in Berlin, Germany. He he is here to meet German businesses and convince them to invest in Nigeria. President Tinubu was part of a panel discussion on the role of Germany's private sector in fostering the local value chains and investments in Africa. He assured German investors that Nigeria gives the best return on investments.
As a visit to Africa recently is equally an indication that Europe is serious to do business with Africa. The good governance promotion in all sectors of our economy in Africa and stability of governance in Nigeria in particular, I would say, it is an indicator that, yes, changes are at the door, not far off.
Germany is already making inroads into the African market, especially with the hydrogen office established in Nigeria that seeks to partner with African countries in expanding renewable energy. The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz also committed to providing investments worth 4 billion euros across Africa.
And going around learning about the countries is also key, because it gives you the chance to see that this is not just a place where you can sell goods to. It's also a very good place for foreign investment, direct investment. It's also a society you will find where people are trying to be at the forefront of developments we have, may it be in some aspects of technology.
Just like Nigeria, other African leaders relish the opportunity for economic growth and development created by the G20 Compact with Africa.
It was important to recall that this is a compact with Africa and not a compact about Africa. So working with Africa means working hand in hand with Africa. So we stated that, and the chancellors mentioned that as well. So I would like to appeal to the investors who would like to do business in Africa.
Talking to my brother Tinubu, for example, Nigeria with 250 million people, clearly trade with Nigeria is very important for us all in West Africa. I often tell President Tinubu that if Nigeria goes well, in West Africa we will go very well.
With Germany's reputation as the biggest economy in Europe and Nigeria as the biggest economy in Africa, there is a prospect of a better compact between both countries as they make deliberate efforts to strengthen bilateral ties. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Berlin, Germany.